Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and still I rise to announce that last night I called for the impeachment of Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America, for threatening judges and for calling for the execution of members of Congress. If ever there was a person who ought to be impeached, it's Donald John Trump. Now, there are many people who don't want to see this happen. They don't want to vote for impeachment. Well, there were people who didn't want to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but they marched on. I shall march on. I've been told that this vote will take place sometime after 1:30 today. I assure you I'll be here for that vote. I will also speak on Friday for about 1 hour after about 11 o'clock. I will explain more about it at that time. This president is a reckless, ruthless, lawless person who doesn't deserve the title of President of the United States of America. I yield back.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging personalities towards the president.
What you're about to hear is not a soundbite and not political theater. This is Congressman Al Green explaining, in plain terms, why he believes impeachment is not optional anymore, but necessary. Citing a stunning warning from former Vice President Dick Cheney, Green lays out a case that goes far beyond party politics and straight to the survival of the Constitution itself. This is about threats against judges, threats against members of Congress, threats against due process, and the normalization of language that would put any other American in prison. Watch closely, because this is one of the clearest, most forceful defenses of impeachment you will hear anywhere.
Now I'd like to respond to the question, if I haven't already. Why are you doing this, Al Green? That really is not the question. The question really is, why wouldn't I do it? Why wouldn't I do it when I have in my hand language that motivates me to do it? Let me read what I bear in my hand. Says here, Dick Cheney's statement. For further edification, that would be Vice President Dick Cheney. This is his statement on Donald Trump's statement, talking about Donald Trump. This is something that NPR published, September 6, 2024. Vice President Dick Cheney. By the way, he was a Republican. I need not say it, but I think that it adds to what I'm about to say. I am a Democrat. I think we were in different places politically. But when it comes to the country, we're in the same place. We were in the same place then, we're in the same place now. And here is what he said. In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to American democracy. Correction. A greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. Let me repeat it. In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. But then he goes on to inspire. To inspire. Because he says, as citizens, we each have a duty. I would add the word responsibility. We each have a duty to put our country above partisanship. Put our country above partisanship to defend our Constitution. Put our country above partisanship and defend our Constitution. Though those words inspire me, I believe that he is right. We have to put country above partisanship. We got to defend the Constitution. That means defend liberty and justice for all, not in the Constitution, but it is symbolic of what the Constitution represents. means defend your Fifth Amendment rights, right to due process, 14th Amendment also. Defend your right to free speech. Defend your right to say that members of the military don't have to follow illegal orders. In fact, must not follow illegal orders. That's what he's talking about. That's the Constitution. That's what comes out of the Constitution, although it may not be explicated with this kind of specificity within the Constitution. But that's it. You got a right to say. Don't follow illegal orders. That's a mandate. It's not something that's optional. You got a right to say it. And you got a right to say it without having someone indicate that you somehow have done something wrong and that you somehow ought to be hanged. Now, I'll say more about that in just a moment. I have much to say about that. But before I say it, I want to say this. If you, any one of you, if I threatened the President of the United States of America, got a punishment here in my hand, if you're convicted under 18 U.S.C. Section 871 of threatening the President of the United States, you can suffer consequences, including up to 5 years in a federal prison, fines of $250,000, a permanent felony record, possible restrictions on future employment, firearm ownership, and other rights. So now, if I or any one of you should indicate in some way that the President ought to somehow receive a death sentence, or if I or one of you should indicate that the President ought to be hanged, I guarantee you this President would have you arrested. I guarantee you, you would be incarcerated. I guarantee you, because you can indict a ham sandwich, they say, you would be indicted, and I guarantee you, you would go to trial. If you do something that is considered threatening, if you say, here's a good word, if you say the President ought to receive death, be punishable by death, or if you say that he ought to be hanged, as the President has said here when he posted a third party's post indicating, hang them, Washington would, indicating here that their behavior was seditious behavior punishable by death. Now I'm talking about the persons who did the right thing, the righteous thing, the lawful thing of saying to people in the military, don't follow illegal orders. And they find themselves, not the President, but themselves being suspect. The President, who has threatened execution, people don't want him impeached. Some. Now, there are some who do, but they have various reasons for why they can't take the stand. They can't say it. Well, I can. So for all of you who want to say it and can't say it, I'm saying it for you. I'm saying he should have been impeached. I'm saying that if ever there was a president in the history of the United States of America who should be impeached, it is Donald John Trump. What he said, he should be impeached for. Now, there are people who would say, well, you do know that he went over to Fox News, that he slithered his way over there. And after being there, he indicated that he didn't intend for anybody to be killed. Maybe not in those exact words. But he didn't intend. He didn't intend for that to be the case. Do you really think that if I said the president ought to be hanged, that I could go over to Fox? Well, Fox wouldn't allow me to say it, but some news source, and say, oh, no, forgive me, I made a mistake. It was a slip of my tongue. No, this president would not allow it. He would consider this a threat. I'd be facing a fine. I'd be facing going to prison. But the president is with impunity, saving what happened yesterday, with impunity, making threats against judges, making threats against members of Congress. And for those who say, well, that's just Congress and they're just judges, let me tell you how it impacts your life. If you go before one of the judges that the president has threatened and you believe that the president's threats can make a difference, will you question the judgment of the judge? He puts in the judiciary in question, the judgments, when he can intimidate judges to the extent that you think judges are acting because of the president's actions that he's taken against the judge. This is bigger than you are as a person. It's about all of us as people, threatening the judiciary, threatening the independence of the judiciary, not respecting the separation of powers. It impacts you, me. We all can be judged at some point. We want to believe that the judge is going to be objective, that he's not going to be subjective, that he's not going to, or she's not going to subject her most precious judicious thoughts to the whims of a president who is reckless, ruthless, and lawless. That's what you want to believe. Okay, well, maybe that takes care of the judges, Congressman Green, but what about members of Congress? He's just threatening them. Remember, we had a member of Congress who was wounded. There was an attempt to assassinate her. There were innocent bystanders there with her who were harmed. Deadly. It's about all of us. It's about when we're out in the public. It's about some person taking to heart what the president said when he said death, when he said hang them. It's about all of us. So I have no regrets for what I have done, zero, and would challenge anyone to come and stand over here or here and stand with me. I challenge you to come and stand and point out why I shouldn't have done what I've done, or we shouldn't have done what we have done, meaning those who are part of the removal coalition. Come, I challenge you. Let's talk before the world. Any one of you. I'm proud of what I've done. I would do it again. I want you to know that in doing this, we are putting the country above some people. We are. Because it's the country that contains all of the people. All of the people are more important than some 1 or 2, 10 people maybe 23. More important than 23 people. It's the country we're trying to save. Well, how do you save the country without having control of the House of Representatives, Al? By showing the country that what is happening to this country is going to cause us to dissolve into something that we have been fighting. We're already at the point of having a person who is maybe less than a dictator, but an authoritarian. We're getting close when the president controls one side of the aisle that has a majority, the Republicans, when a president, and that's in the House, controls one side of the aisle called Republicans in the Senate, when a president has stacked the Supreme Court of the United States, yes, he stacked the deck. When he stacked the Supreme Court and he's get rulings that people never thought the Supreme Court would render, all that's left is impeachment. That's all that's left. And there are those who would say, well, let's just wait. Why don't we wait? They told Dr. King to wait. One of the things that Dr. King said in response to this notion that we must wait, one of the things that he said was, the time is always right to do what is right. So now, I say to you, what we did yesterday was not only right, it was righteous. Because everything in those articles is true. It's righteous. And we don't have constitutional scholars coming out and saying, well, it really doesn't comply with Federalist number whatever. That's not the argument. The argument is, this is not the time. I differ. The time, as Dr. King put it, is always right to do what is right. Now, Dr. King didn't expect everybody to do what was right when he was doing it. And I don't expect everybody who believes that what we're doing is right but won't do it themselves to do what is right with us. I understand. But what I don't want you to do, and I beg that you not do, is assault the people who are standing up for you in clever language. Don't do that. Don't assault us. We may fight back, but don't do that. I have bigger things to do. I'm not going to say ugly things. But my point is, this is bigger than any one of us in this Congress. It is bigger than the Congress, House, and the Senate together, and the judiciary. This is about the country. What kind of country will he leave when he leaves office? That's what we're dealing with. And my friends across the aisle are very much aware of how he is encroaching upon the separation of powers, the judiciary, how he is threatening the Supreme Court and threatening judges with abusive, vituperative language. When you threaten one judge, you're threatening them all. So let's not kid ourselves. He's doing it. So now I'm going to share this with you. I know who this president is. I want to make sure that you understand that I'm going to a different topic in sharing with you who he is. But I want to tell you who he is. Because in telling you who he is, I will be going to a different topic. I've made my point about impeachment. But I want to tell you who he is. Because I've seen him before. I know him. This is a different topic now. Because there's more to be said.
What Al Green did here was strip away every excuse people use to avoid the word impeachment. He didn't rely on Democrats. He didn't rely on partisanship. He relied on something far more damning, a warning from Dick Cheney, a Republican vice president, who said plainly that no individual in American history has posed a greater threat to the Republic than Donald Trump. That matters because this argument isn't about ideology. It's about the structure of American democracy and whether it can survive a president who openly threatens judges, reposts calls for executions, and treats constitutional limits as inconveniences. Green's point is simple but devastating. If any ordinary American used the language Trump has used, calling for people to be hanged or punished by death, they would be arrested, indicted, and imprisoned. Trump does it with impunity. Green also makes clear why this isn't just about politicians or courts. When a president threatens judges, he poisons the judiciary itself. Every future ruling becomes suspect. Every defendant wonders whether justice is independent or coerced. That erosion of trust doesn't stay in Washington. It reaches into every courtroom in America. And when a president threatens members of Congress, history tells us that words turn into violence. We've already seen members wounded, lives lost, and rhetoric turn deadly. Green is warning that normalization of this behavior doesn't just end norms. It endangers lives. Most importantly, Green explains why impeachment remains the only remaining constitutional tool. When one president controls the House through party loyalty, the Senate through fear, and the Supreme Court through ideological capture, impeachment becomes the last line of defense. Waiting is not neutrality. It is surrender. Green invokes Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for a reason. The demand to wait has always been used to delay justice until it dies. His message is blunt. The time to act is not later. It is now. This wasn't about personal grievance. It wasn't about headlines. It was a warning. A warning that separation of powers is collapsing, that threats are replacing law, and that silence enables authoritarianism. Whether impeachment succeeds or fails is secondary to what Green is forcing the country to confront. If this behavior is tolerated, then the Constitution becomes optional. And once that happens, no election, no court, and no office is truly safe anymore.